The Bloxburg 2025 elf hunt has begun, but this year there's some new features like switching up how you get the trophies, brand new rewards, and much more. So today I'm going to explain the entire event to you and answer all of your most commonly asked questions, like how to actually find the elves and if you get daily hints or not. So let's get into it. Hey glossettes, welcome back. How are you guys doing today? It's day 15 of Glossmas, and today of course will be your updated 2025 guide to the elf hunt. I'm going to be answering everything from how the event works to your specific questions, like for example the elves not spawning, why you don't actually get these daily hints people are talking about, and everything else. Every section of this video will also be on screen now and timestamped down below on the kind of YouTube scroll bar thing where you can pick what time you're watching of the video, because I'll be covering a lot today, so you can skip to anything you may need because there's going to be a lot of questions answered. But before we get into it, we need to see who's behind door number 14 on the Glossmas advent calendar. As per usual, there's a timestamp on screen now if you want to skip to where the video actually begins, but starting off, we're actually going over to door number 14 because we are going to do both 14 and 15 as I didn't post a main video yesterday. So the first glossette we have in door 14 is Bullet, and this is because Bullet made me this GFX, but they actually recreated my profile picture. So if you've seen my real life Instagram, my most recent post for my birthday was this one here, and they recreated it, and I just thought this was so creative. They even have my favorite band in the background, Arctic Monkeys. I just thought this was adorable, so thank you so much Bullet, and welcome to the Glossmas advent calendar. Then of course we have door number 15 over here. The glossette we have today is Carolina, and this is because they drew me this adorable drawing and I just thought it was so cute. I love this one. It looks so pretty. I just love the pose and everything, and it's so sweet, so thank you so much Carolina, and also welcome to the Glossmas advent calendar. Anyways, let's get on to the elf hunt, starting with what the elf hunt actually is. Long story short, the elf hunt is a 16-day long event in Bloxburg from the 9th of December to the 24th of December, aka Christmas Eve, which has been happening every year since 2020. So this is actually our 6th ever elf hunt, and what happens is each day it's specifically 9 PM UK time, an elf will spawn somewhere random around the map, and if found and given a specific food or item, it will give you a reward until on Christmas Eve where you get a trophy. Now if you want to find out what time this would be in your time zone, you can Google 9 PM UK time in your time zone to find out, or you can also check the elf hunt menu, which is also the hub for the entire event. So to find this page, you need to click on the snowflake, then click the elf icon, and you'll be able to see the timer for when the next elf spawns, as well as showing you what elves you've got so far. So these little boxes all represent an elf and look like this if that elf isn't in game yet, and then when you get the elf it'll go green, but if there's an elf in game you haven't got yet, it'll look like this. And if it's been 24 hours since that elf was added, you can also click on it and it will show you a tracker that'll show you the rough area of where the elf is, so you can have a little bit of help. At the bottom you can also see the trophy tracker, but we're going to talk about how trophies are different and easier a lot later in this video in the trophy section. But that's pretty much everything for the menu, and you may be wondering how to actually take part in the elf hunt, and this part is easy. So to begin, you must go to the Santa photo area in town, which you can use the elf hunt button in the menu to teleport to, and you need to talk to the elder elf at the front here. The elder elf will tell you about how the elves are missing and how he thinks one of them is near the movie theater, and then you need to grab a cookie from next to Santa by clicking on this arrow, head to the movie theater, which is right behind you, where you'll see the first elf with a giant arrow above its head. You need to give this elf the cookie, and then this is the first elf complete, and you can now take part in the elf hunt. So this is a necessary step, because if you don't talk to the elder elf and complete this, then you won't be able to see the rest of the elves, because this is kind of what triggers the event to begin for you. And this first elf is just a tutorial, so the rest of them don't have giant arrows above the head and also don't have the elder elf giving you a hint either. This is simply a one-off to show you how it works, which has confused a lot of new players who are taking part in the elf hunt for the first time because they expected a hint every day. So let's talk about how to actually find the elves and how we find them without these hints. So like I said earlier, the elf hunt has been an annual event since 2020 and we never get hints. This was the first time we ever got a hint, and of course it was purely for the tutorial. So all of the new players who are pretty shocked by this, unfortunately this is just how the elf hunt works. It's meant to be hard and meant to be a challenge. They didn't even announce it when it was first added in 2020, as it was meant to kind of be like this secret. However, that doesn't mean that there's not some easier ways of finding them, and in terms of finding them, you have two choices. You either look for the elves yourself or you use a tutorial. Focusing on the second option for a second, I'm gonna be real, I am your best source for the elf hunt tutorial videos. I've posted every single elf hunt location ever over the past 6 years, and I post them before anyone else, if not very soon after. Even the Bloxburg wiki has me listed as an elf hunt source, and my videos are posted incredibly quickly. I post the main video on the locations first on my channel here, and then after that I also post them over on TikTok, so it's definitely worth subscribing here if you want to watch them as soon as possible. However, if you're going with the first option, option where you find them completely by yourself with no help, I also have some tips on how to do this yourself too. This map is of course huge, so they could genuinely be everywhere, but it's best to look in key locations like maybe the top of the mountain, the lighthouse, the town buildings, the school, bridges, in the waterfall, the beaches, the camp areas, the observatory, and more. So any kind of key areas are the best places to go and search for first. The elves also play this sound effect and have this mood pop up when they're close by, so if you're driving around and you see this pop up, then you know the elf is close by and you can kind of stop and look for it there. I also suggest getting a vehicle, and the best one for this in my opinion is the motorbike, because these are one of the fastest vehicles to get around with, plus they are smaller so you can fit into smaller gaps between trees, for example. You simply just have to look as best you can, or of course use my tutorials if it's too difficult for you, and of course you can also get that hint after 24 hours that will show you roughly where the elf is located. However, some people, although they're in the right place, they can't actually see the elf as it hasn't spawned, so let's talk about why they might not be appearing for you. First of all, you need to make sure you've done the elder elf, of course, as this what starts the hunt. However, in previous years, you've also needed to do all the elves in order, but that is not the case this year. So once the elder elf has been spoken to and the first elf is done, all of the elves will be around the map, unlike normal where you would only be able to see one at a time and you have to complete them in order to see the next one. So right now when I'm filming this, there's 5 elves in the game, and if you went now and did the elder elf thing right now, then the other 4 elves next would all be in the game at once, so you didn't have to find them in order. If you've definitely done the elder elf and you're definitely in the right place for one of the elves, then the only other reason you wouldn't be able to see it is if it's a server bug. Now, many players have reported it not spawning in for them this year, and the best way to fix this is to rejoin a server, and I've specifically heard if you have a neighborhood and you rejoin this so it kind of refreshes itself, the elf normally spawns immediately and works after that. Also, Editor Glossie here, I just want to add in, I did tell the developers this, so they are aware that people are having this issue, but I do just also want to say I do the elf hunt every single night with my friends, and what we do is we go into my neighborhood and sit and wait at the elf for it to despawn, because then obviously we know the new one's in game, and then we go and find the new one and it spawns without fail every single time. So I know a lot of people who aren't seeing it are the ones who are getting confused and haven't done the elder elf yet, and I'm not too sure how many of these are an actual bug. I also don't know if this is something that's mainly happening in public servers or is happening to people who aren't there when it actually moves originally. I don't know what's going on, but I do want to suggest if you can, then I would sit and wait for it to, you know, respawn every night and then go straight to it, as that is a method that has worked for us every single time. But yeah, something's going on. Just make sure you've done the elder elf and just see what happens. Anyways, back to the video. I just wanted to add that in because I don't actually have an answer for this bug really. All you can do is keep trying and maybe trying different servers, and there's no rush to get the elf done in the same day anyways, so don't panic and just give it some time to spawn, as it's most likely just a bug. Going back to the fact that they all spawn, I get asked a lot if you can do the elves all at once, and the answer is yes and no. So of course only 1 elf spawns a day. However, if it was day like 7 of the elf hunt, for example, you could go and do all elves 1 to 7 at once because they'd all be there, but then you'd have to stop because obviously there would only be 7 in game so far. However, once it gets to Christmas Eve and all 16 elves have been added, you can absolutely do them all at once, and I'll also be posting a video showing all of the locations in one big video in order on Christmas Eve too. Anyways, once we found our elf, before we get into how to figure out the food or the items, you may notice that some of them are actually red. So what do the red elves mean? These elves are the angry elves, and what this means is if you end up giving them the wrong food or item when you're trying to figure out what they want, they actually play little pranks on you. And at the time I'm filming this, we've only had 1 angry elf so far, but if you gave this one the wrong thing, it would apparently throw snowballs at you, which is funny. But regardless of if it's yellow or red, of course, once you found an elf, the next step is to give it a food or an item. So how do you work out what it needs? Now, the only way to figure this out is by guessing, or of course watching my tutorials, because I obviously do all the work for you, but there's no set way of knowing. However, the most common things the elves need are either a Christmas food item or a random in-game item that's usually linked to their location. For example, elf number 4 needed a fishing rod as it was sat on a lake, if you get what I mean. Also, these 2 cookie types are definitely what the elves need most of the time and are definitely the best item to start with, but any Christmas food item is possible too, or a normal food item sometimes as well. It's completely random, but all you need to do is click on the elf and give whatever you have to them, and if it's the correct food or item, you'll be given a reward, but if it's wrong, they'll tell you it's wrong. But if you're confused on how you actually get the food, then of course you make it in the game. You can gather all of the Christmas food items in different ways, but most of it can be made by clicking the Take Ingredients tab on your fridge and cooking it from there. There's also some Christmas food items you need to get from different appliances or from around the map, and I'll link down below my Christmas food guide video where I show you how to get all of it if you want to stock up or you want to prepare for the rest of the elves. Moving on, you may be wondering what the elf hunt rewards actually are. So So each day when you give the elf the correct item, you will get 250 tickets. They no longer give you both cash and tickets, it's just purely tickets. However, another improvement made this year was if you get the elf late, aka after the 24 hours it was added in, you don't get less of a reward anymore. So what used to happen is you'd get, for example, 250 tickets if you did the elf in the day it came out before the next one, but if you did it after this, you would only get 100. However, now you don't, which is great, so there's no pressure to do it on time. Also, the more elves you do, the more this bar goes up on the elf hunt menu, and this also has no time limit either. So by getting the elves and filling the bar up, you will get bloxburg rewards throughout the elf hunt, as well as the trophies, and there's no time limit on this, so you don't have to worry about doing any of the elves on time. You just need to make sure you get them done eventually. But talking about trophies, this leads me on to how to get the trophies. Now, the trophies are probably the biggest change this year, and that's because they've been made far easier to get. Usually what happens is there's either silver, gold, or platinum elf hunt trophies, and you can only get one of these. So in previous years, if you got every single elf and you got it on the same day that the elf was added, you would get the platinum trophy. If you got one or more of the elves late, you would get gold, and if you got all of the elves late, you would actually get silver. But this year, the time you do the elves doesn't actually matter, you just need to complete them. So to get platinum, all you need to do is make sure you get all 16 elves by the end of the event. You don't need to worry about when. Then the gold and silver trophies you also get by getting a smaller amount of elves. So to get the silver, you need to get 8 elves, and to get the gold, you need to get 12. So you don't have to worry about when you're getting them, and I'm also 99% sure that you can actually collect all 3 trophies. Very similar to how the tickets work, you will actually get all of these trophies, all 3 of them, if you complete all of the elves. But I'm filming this when we've only had 5 elves so far, so obviously no one's been able to unlock the trophies yet, so we don't know for sure, and I will update you in the pinned comment. But that's pretty much it. That is a guide for every part of the elf hunt, everything explained for you guys, as I've had so many questions. However, the final question is, how long is the elf hunt in game? According to the elf hunt event page, the event runs until the 26th of December, which is the day after Christmas Day, so you need to make sure you've completely got all of the elves before then. It's definitely worth just doing them once a day, as it's definitely a fun thing to log on for each day. And of course, because we also have the in-game advent calendar, you could basically do both at the same time and make sure you get that too. But that is pretty much it. That is everything you need to know about the elf hunt. If I've missed anything, let me down below and I will add it to the pinned comment. But this should be your full guide to absolutely everything you needed help with. And of course, subscribe if you want my daily elf hunt videos that get posted pretty much before anyone else finds them. And I do just want to say thank you guys so much for your support, because I have so many subscribers who only come back every year for the elf hunt. So if you're one of those, then hello. Anyways, as per usual, all my channel members will be on screen now. Thank you so much for joining the channel, and all my Nitro boosters, thank you so much for boosting the Discord server, and all my merch buyers, thank you so much for buying the merch drop back in February. But I love you all so much, glossettes. Have a very merry Glossmas. XOXO, Glossy Girl.